Today, CITV begins with Tiny Planets after the latest news in London today.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Anna Maria Ash. This is London Today. We start with some breaking news. A jury has just returned a verdict in the case of Roger Sylvester, who died in police custody. Phil Bales is outside St Pancras Coroner's Court now. Phil, what's the verdict?
Well, the verdict, quite sensationally, is that Roger Sylvester was unlawfully killed. There was uproar inside the court when that verdict was announced. Now, Roger Sylvester was subdued by several police officers when he was arrested outside his home, and then subdued for a further period when he was taken to a psychiatric hospital in Haringey. The coroner, in giving the jury guidance on which verdicts they could come back with, had told them that they could only go for unlawful killing if the facts proved that an unlawful and dangerous act had caused his death. What they said was that more force was applied than was reasonably necessary in subduing him, and that he was held in the restraint position for too long. They were also critical about the level of medical care that he received. And so the family at the moment are coming to terms with this verdict. There was great distress inside the court, and I'm sure that afterwards they will have something to say. Back to you.
Phil, thanks very much. Phil Bales reporting there. One man has been killed and a second injured during what's thought to be a drive-by shooting in Hertfordshire. The attack happened in Brewery Road in Hoddesdon shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. Nick Scott-Plummer reports.
The gunman opened fire with what's thought to be an automatic weapon in broad daylight as commuters were making their way to work. The attack happened as two men described as bodybuilders left a gym in the Hertfordshire town of Hoddesdon.
We heard a real long amount of gunfire for about 4 or 5 seconds. We looked out the window. First of all, thought it was fireworks, kids letting off crackers. And looked out, and the Peugeot that was parked right against our fence was, all the windows were blown in. There was all bullet holes through the leather seating, and the guy was lying there by his passenger side front wheel.
The gangland-style hit took place at around 9:15 this morning. The two victims were talking outside the gym in Brewery Road when a white transit van pulled alongside them and a gunman opened fire. Paramedics were on the scene within minutes, but one of the men was already dead. The other suffered superficial wounds and is now being interviewed by detectives. Police later discovered the van used in the shooting on fire in a nearby street. It's now been removed for forensic examination. As yet, the police have no motive for the murder. They're appealing for any eyewitnesses to come forward to help them with their investigation. This is Nick Scott-Plummer for London Today.
One person's died in a suspected gas leak in North London. London Fire Brigade were called to an address in Camden Road at the junction with Royal College Street this morning. A woman aged between 50 and 60 was treated by ambulance crews. Police have cordoned off the surrounding area. The Disability Rights Commission has launched a campaign to help businesses improve access for people with mobility needs. The move comes ahead of new laws which will force firms to take steps. Our reporter Sharon Thomas has been speaking to one woman about the difficulties she faces in London.
Lisa Egan from Golders Green has been a wheelchair user since she was 5. Like most 20-somethings, she enjoys clubbing. On Saturday night, she came here to the Astoria.
It's always very fun to start your night out with a hurdle to face, or in this case, a flight of steps. When I came here, venue staff did help me to get in, but surely it would be fairer on both me and them if I had a ramp or a lift so I could get in by myself.
A mile away in Covent Garden, and it's one of the worst possible surfaces.
You have to be really cautious and careful, otherwise your front wheels get caught and you land on your chin, which hurts.
And many of the pubs aren't much more accommodating.
I couldn't get in there for a pint. The bar was either upstairs or downstairs.
And shopping can also be a real problem.
I have a huge obsession with candles, but they're missing out as well, I suppose, in that they don't get my custom.
A new survey outlines how 70% of disabled people find it difficult to get into shops or use high street services.
The barriers that prevent people with disabilities from doing things are so extensive in London, and I think London's probably, the worst city in this country I've been to. And it's also really quite sad from the business's point of view as well, in that they're not acknowledging that disabled people have disposable income and they could make money.
Today, a new campaign has been launched to help businesses understand changes they'll soon be forced to make, adapting premises and removing physical barriers.
Businesses have a year really to get ready to actually make changes so that they can open their doors to disabled customers. They can actually make the best of that business. And when you welcome disabled people, you do welcome other people.
By the 1st of October next year, all businesses, large or small, will need to become more user-friendly for Britain's 8.6 million disabled people. Those that fail to comply with the new legislation could face legal action. In Covent Garden, this is Sharon Thomas for London Today.
The Mayor of London has hit out at a survey by Westminster Council suggesting 70% of businesses in the area have been affected by the congestion charge. Mr Livingston's office said the survey was unrepresentative and that businesses had been blighted by the Central Line derailment and the war with Iraq. The council suggests that one way of reducing the impact would be to shorten the charge's operating hours.
We'd like to see the congestion charge work in the morning only, finish at 1 o'clock, so that businesses can have their customers who are car sensitive in the afternoon, and we still get the major benefit at peak times of reduced congestion.
Thousands of Londoners are wearing denim to work to raise money for a campaign led by Great Ormond Street Hospital. Funds from the Jeans for Genes Day will be spent on therapy to help people suffering from genetic disorders. Our health correspondent Liz Wickham reports.
Wherever you look at Great Ormond Street today, denim is in order. The idea is to draw attention and, more importantly, funding towards research to help children like Octavia Woodward. Genes for Genes. Octavia has a genetic disorder called SMA, spinal muscular atrophy. It happened because both her mum and dad carry a particular faulty gene, but it had never surfaced in either family before. It means, among other things, she'll never walk.
They have very weak main core muscles. She has movement, she has feelings, but for instance, she would be unable to lift her hand above her head like this. She could hold a pencil and write, but very slowly, and you could knock the pencil out of her hands very easily with a feather.
Genetic research is at a stage now where some such illnesses can be treated. For example, some genes that cause a faulty immune system can be replaced.
What we see is that over a period of time, the immune system starts to grow. It starts to produce the cells that weren't there before. It starts to function normally. It starts to produce antibodies. And so these children now can come out of their bubbles. They can stop taking all the medications that they were taking before that would protect them, and they can start to live effectively normal lives.
But funding is almost entirely from charities like Genes for Genes. Octavia is very fast in her groovy wheelchair, but for her mum, research can't go fast enough.
The sooner it comes, the better for her, because she can easily have a bad winter and end up in intensive care and not come out.
Currently, 4,000 disorders have been discovered that are caused by a single faulty gene. And the research that goes into curing those illnesses is the same research that one day will lead to treatments for all kinds of cancers too. At Great Ormond Street Hospital, this is Liz Wickham for London Today.
The Essex fundraiser, who was injured while attempting an underwater marathon in Loch Ness, has resumed his challenge. Former firefighter Lloyd Scott's watery mission was under threat after he plunged part of the way down a 300-foot deep shelf yesterday. This report now from John Todd.
On Sunday, Lloyd Scott, veteran of 2 marathons completed in diving gear, took the plunge for his latest challenge, covering another 26 miles suited and booted. This time, though, in the chilly depths of Loch Ness. Everything was going swimmingly, with the former Essex fireman covering a steady 3 miles a day. Until yesterday, that is.
It was very, very silty, incredibly silty, and I had sort of zero visibility. So I had to drop down on my hands and knees to try and find the line, and I just went over a ledge. I went down about, I suppose, 15, 20 feet, and then got sort of jarred by my line sort of stopping me, and just caught my shoulder a wee bit.
Fortunately for Lloyd, the safety line stopped him falling another 300 feet to the very bottom of the loch, and his backup team on the surface were able to pull him out. Lloyd's brush with the abyss, though, isn't the first scare he's had down there.
I got my left foot trapped as well, and I wondered what that was. But I just gone for an oil drum. But it was quite a scare when you put your foot down and all of a sudden something sort of grabbed you by the ankle. The rescue diver had to come down and free me from an oil drum.
It was last year that Lloyd earned world renown competing in the London and New York marathons. Along the way, he's picked up plenty of aches and pains, but yesterday's shoulder injury was the worst yet. Despite this, he's determined to carry on.
got lots of money right on this for the charity Children with Leukemia. We want to raise up to sort of £3 million for their Children's Marathon Challenge. I'm launching that. And, you know, there's no way I'm giving in. You know, kiddies with this illness face setbacks every day, so there's no way, as me trying to set an example, is going to give in after something like this.
And to show he's no quitter, Lloyd's back in the depths as we speak, continuing his lonely journey. This is John Todd for London Today.
Football news, and faces from Tottenham's great past turned out for a special charity event last night. Martin Chivers was joined by Spurs fan and Tory party leader Ian Duncan-Smith for a five-a-side tournament. And the hot topic, of course, was who will take over at White Hart Lane after the sacking of Glenn Hoddle. Jonathan Gould reports.
So, Danny Blanchflower, captain of Spurs, to take the penalty.
They were the glory days, the first ever 20th century domestic double that set Tottenham Hotspur apart from the ordinary football teams. But fast forward 42 years and even the politically correct fans are starting to question their place in the Premiership pecking order.
It's a club with a fantastic history and a reputation, and therefore people think possibly it's bigger than it is.
And yet, as the first British club ever to triumph in Europe, has there ever been a better cup side? And as for the legends, they're real, if a little distant.
Gascoigne and Tottenham are level.
But even the legends can't deny that times have changed.
It's been a while since Tottenham have had a bit of stability. Down the road, our local rivals, Arsenal, it's the one thing that I envy them with, is that they have a lot of stability within the club. And that's one thing that we are desperate to get here.
And though David Pleat has brought some stability as caretaker manager for this weekend's match-up with Everton, he's unlikely to keep the job full-time.
I wish Martin O'Neill would come south. I just think this is the perfect challenge for him. You know, he's risen to the challenge at Leicester, he's gone north, he's risen to the challenge there as well, and down here it would be great.
Charlton's Alan Kerbishley is also on the shortlist, not exactly the perfect preparation for the Annex trip to Portsmouth.
There's been speculation about me in recent years. I'm still here, you know, so I won't be too concerned about it all.
Tough times lie ahead for Spurs. A glorious past is of little consolation. This is Jonathan Gould for London Today.
A recap now on our headlines. A jury has just returned a verdict of unlawful killing at the inquest into the death of Roger Sylvester. 30-year-old Mr. Sylvester slipped into a coma whilst being restrained outside his home in Tottenham by 8 police officers in 1999. And one man has been killed and a second injured during what's thought to be a drive-by shooting in Hertfordshire. And that's it for now, but coming up at 6 in London tonight, an exclusive. We uncover evidence of poor maintenance work on the Bakerloo line, which some experts warn could cause a derailment. London Underground's chief engineer has called for an urgent investigation, but is it happening elsewhere?
The railway is safe. However, I'm appalled by the standard of workmanship and the quality of housekeeping in that particular site. And I'm demanding a full explanation from Metronet BCV, which is our contractor, of why they've allowed this to happen and what steps they're taking to ensure it doesn't happen again.
We'll see you at 6. Bye-bye.
London weather, sponsored by Tops Tiles. Brightening homes, whatever the weather.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, today's cloud clears away tonight, so leaving these clear slots, and temperatures take a bit of a tumble, to say the least, 6s, 7s, and that's cooler than we've seen recently. We have been into double figures. So into tomorrow morning, our Saturday, on a bright, fresh, but even more significantly, on a much colder note than of late. That remains the same by the afternoon. 15 is a high, add on a northwesterly wind, making it feel all the cooler, more in the way of cloud, and some showers crop up too. That's all from me.
London weather, sponsored by Tops Tiles.